So Rosalinda, as you're talking us through this, I have so many wonderful memories. This could be a 12-hour podcast for my part, but I just want to pick up on a couple of things which I think, again, for those people who are going to be determined to take this into new school settings, you obviously had some of the deans and teachers well on side with you by the time the e-colors got to roll out. You want to talk just a little bit about, because that's really how you sustain it, right? I mean, you obviously drove it, but you really needed the support from above and below, for that matter. You want to talk us through that a little bit?
When I had meetings with different departments, it started from the level of the champion. So I would invite the champions in to have conferences with the teachers, and the student champions would be the ones to offer feedback. So when they offered the teacher feedback, it wasn't me as an adult coming in and criticizing their work or saying, I think you could do better. The things that make teachers nervous all the time. And then they'll often criticize a school administrator and say, you're not in my shoes, you're not here every day, but the kids are, because they're in the classroom with the teacher. So when they extended their feedback to the teacher and told them how they could potentially utilize personal intervention better, you could not have given us a better tool to have healthier conversations and change the classroom environment. Because the classroom environment changed, academically, our students who were not supposed to be successful because of the area that we were in were graduating at higher rates. They were attending school because they knew that we cared for them, so they wanted to be there. Nobody was intentionally wanting to hurt them. Middle school, not the high school so much, but in middle school, we saw a lot of bullying. So remember, I had 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And in those grades, we had to undo any learnings that they may have had at their previous campuses, because they're just arriving to our campus from their elementary schools, and talk to them about e-colors. And I remember there was one incident that was on video, and I accidentally stumbled into this incident on that day that I came back from a meeting. And we had one of our middle schoolers just get smacked in the face. And when he got smacked, his face turned. You see it on the camera, it turns back, and all he does is look down. He doesn't retaliate, he doesn't fight back. And that was so hurtful to me, because I'd worked so hard at trying to create a healthy environment. And so I challenged that child and his mother to address the issue head on, because this wouldn't happen again. This would not be an incident that we would see over and over, a pattern of behavior that he would experience the rest of his school years. And the mom was in agreement that she didn't want her child to be a victim. So at that point, we had a steady set of e-colors champions, but he became another e-colors champion because he was willing to share his story. And because this was happening, this was year 2, I had awareness that spring break, which is typically happens in March in the States, it's a whole week off that our children have for holiday. And the incidents usually happen, whether it's gang violence, whether it's pregnancies, just different things that they do during that time off when they're not at school. So I decided to utilize the testimony of this young man in agreement with him and his mother, and that we would have a conversation with all high schoolers. And he would share his story about how he was impacted with the bullying that had taken place that was so fierce and harsh. The person who hit him decided to come forward and acknowledge his faults. When all of this was transpiring, I could have never imagined that it was 2 of my 6th graders that would be teaching a lesson to my high schoolers about how to be kind and not hurt each other, not hurt their bodies, not let others hurt them. And it was a session of healing, because we had people there that would say, you know, I wasn't good to somebody when I was in elementary, and I thought I was trying to do good by others, and I'm still realizing that people are scared of me because of what I did in the past. So all of that took place, that the rest of the school year, I was only doing this to prevent issues in that spring break holiday week in March. For the rest of that year that ended in May, the school year, there was 0 behavioral incidents. There's nothing, no miraculous thing that happened. I always tell people with e-colors, it's not like it's a bow and all of a sudden everything's going to work. When you have people who, and particularly for me, it was the children and the youth that we had on our campus, when they had adults who believed in them and their story, and they were able to find a way to express it, personal intervention became everyone's charge. It's my responsibility. I need to take care of me. And so we saw for sure a reduction in incidents and people wanting to come to school. So our attendance was really high at a rate of 97% attendance, because we cared for them and they were going to get that care every day that they arrived to school.
Rosalinda, do you remember the impact it had on the soccer team?
Of course. It was to have soccer, by the way, which was sponsored by Equilibrium, because it's an extracurricular activity. We're in the poorest neighborhood of the Houston area, and finding uniforms to, you know, have them have the pride to represent our school, and again, still very similarly our brand, and us providing workshops and trainings and talking to them about, particularly the coach, talking to them about using personal intervention when they're out on the pitch and when they were playing, so that they wouldn't get red carded. That season they went to state and they won it in the charter school division, because they were so consistent with focusing on growing and using their talents, and not being angry and upset whenever something didn't go their way and they never earned a red card.
Yeah, in fact, if I remember rightly, and we won't name him, but the coach was predominantly red-yellow. When one of the kids would get fouled, they'd be turning around, they'd be shouting at the coach, press your pause button, press your pause. Okay, just building on the pause and play for a moment. I think one of the other things which was a very sentinel moment was, if you remember, in the booklets that we used to give the students, there was a section in there about, there was an event that happened and I choose to press pause or play, and this was the outcome. And I remember, Rosalinda, the first time, or one of the times I came back to the school after that process had been in place, you handed me a stack of printed files of what they put down. Do you remember some of the things that they said?
I do. So first of all, a lot of people had asked, how do you incorporate e-colors into the regular academic time frame? And so I used my health class, who is also my PE teacher, and I used her class to focus on kind of the mental health aspect of what personal intervention could offer. And if we were asking them to physically be healthy, what are some things that you could share with us that you could have done differently had you learned about personal intervention beforehand? And for some of them, it had to do with people asking them in middle school to start selling drugs and them deciding, no, that's not going to be for me, or even to take the drug, are some of those examples. So it was pretty graphic descriptions that you thought no young child should have to decide, but that's exactly the environment that they were in, that they were having to make tough choices. And all they knew was to be honest. That's the life they lived. And it was on paper. So you got to see some of that.
Yeah, the one that always stood out to me was three of my friends decided to rob a 7-Eleven, and I pressed my pause button and said no. So
Yeah.
again, absolutely remarkable story. And with that, we're going to move on because there came a point where it became very clear. I think collectively we wanted to do something on a slightly larger scale, and we'll pick that up in a moment.